time for Voice of Indie. Your hosts today are Beem Weeks, author, producer, and marketing monster for independent multimedia publisher Fresh Ink Group, and Stephen Gies, author, producer, composer, and publisher for Fresh Ink Group.
And greetings, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Here we are again. Welcome to the Voice of Indie podcast, and this is our 99th meeting, 99th Wednesday. So welcome to everybody in the listening audience, and welcome to my co-host, Mr. Stephen Gies. I am Mr. Beem Weeks, by the way. How you doing, Steve?
I'm Nifty Keen. I
Nifty
heard a new
Keen.
slogan in there, 99 and still trying to get it right.
Trying to get it right.
So
next week is number 100. So how about that?
Yeah. I guess we need to organize something.
Yeah, I figure we light some sparklers and get those screaming goats out.
So it's been hot as blazes down here, pushing 100 degrees today. Supposed to go over 100 degrees tomorrow. So I go out at night when it's in the 70s and sit on the deck and just listen to the frogs and sometimes talk to the frogs because they come over and look at me and talk back, so what the heck. We found out that Dr. Helen Burrell, a Fresh Ink Group member and author and regular listener on the podcast, is in the hospital. So we want to send her our best wishes and thoughts and hope she has a very speedy recovery.
Yeah, we are still doing the GoFundMe. She's definitely going to need some help. So if you are so inclined, go over to Fresh Ink Group LLC on Facebook, and you will find a link to the GoFundMe page over there. Plus, we will post it on Twitter. I was going to do that this afternoon and got busy preparing for the show here, so I didn't get a chance to, but I'll do that either this evening or tomorrow. But it helps. It helps support her medical bills that are really racking up. And you can support her also by purchasing her books, American Agony and The Hippocampus. So get over to Amazon and check those out and give her a helping hand. And if you want to participate in tonight's show, and I see we got 3 callers already lined up, so this is going to be a good show here. If you want to participate, if you got a call or if you got a comment or a question, you can do it by following this.
Call 516-453-9902 right now with your questions or comments for tonight's guest, or post a note on Twitter with hashtag Fresh Ink Group in the body of the tweet, and we'll read it on air. That's 516-453-9902 or hashtag Fresh Ink Group on Twitter.
All right.
So if you subscribe to our newsletter, and if you don't, why not?
Shame on you.
Subscribe to our newsletter. You'll see an article is in there today about the Copyright Claims Board. This was written by Victoria Strauss for Writer Beware. Pay attention to that. If you've deleted it, use the contact form, get a hold of us, ask us to send you that link again so you can read it. It's essentially small claims court for copyright infringement claims up to $30,000. And there's pluses and minuses and pros and cons and good and bad. So make sure you read that article and keep it in mind so that if you get yourself into a situation where you need to protect your copyright against somebody who's infringing on it, you've got other options besides the usual spend $500,000 in federal court option. So check that out. Yeah. And if you've not subscribed to our newsletter to get these kinds of great nuggets of information, please do that.
Yeah, get out there and find your copyright infringers. And if you're like me, you call Vinny and Paulie and say, hey, go over there and take care of them for me, will you? Lead pipe,
Yeah.
And, all right. But, because if you've ever Googled, if you're an author and you've ever Googled your name or your books, you will find that there are all kinds of these sites that they're basically giving your work away for free. And, it's like whack-a-mole. You cease and desist, they take it down, then another pops up. But, you keep on top of that, and you might make a few bucks here and there off of your own sales. So there you
So,
go.
one of our authors, Dr. Marshall L. Shearer, M.D., who passed away, 8 years ago, 8 or 9 years ago, something like that.
8 years, yeah.
Yeah. He's built a website for him, DocShearer.com, some years back, and it got hijacked. So we've rebuilt the thing, and we're still replacing a couple of graphics and tweaking a couple of things, but it's now up as DocShearerMD.com. So in the next week or two, we're going to publicize that in the newsletter, too, and encourage you to get over there and check out that website, DocShearerMD.com. But you can go look now. You don't have to wait.
Yeah, and yourfoodtruckhowto.com is up and running right now. We are still tweaking it. There's we got the author. She's going through, making sure everything works, and there's some things that still need to be worked on. But get over there, yourfoodtruckhowto.com, and as Stephen just mentioned about the newsletter, here's how you can subscribe.
Stay on top of these podcasts and all things Fresh Ink Group with our weekly digital newsletter, new releases, videos, stories, excerpts, interviews, and more. Sign up now on the homepage of freshinkgroup.com and be the one who knows what's what.
What? And speaking of what's what, the author of Your Food Truck How To is A.K. Wingler, so get over to Amazon and it's about starting a food truck in Florida, but she's working on other states too. I believe she's got Georgia coming up next too. So get over there and check it out.
And then Tennessee right after that too. So this is going to be quite a good series. So I went over a couple hours ago and looked to see what kind of print sales we got going on this week. Interesting. The top two, 1 and 2 slots are the same title, softcover and hardcover, and that's The High Road, Memories from a Long Trip by Country Music Hall of Fame drummer Mark Herndon. Can't help but wonder, 2 weeks ago, I went and saw him and his wife, country singer Leah Seawright, perform in Geraldine, Alabama. It was a very small crowd, maybe 30 people tops, but all of those people were taking pictures, and I'll bet you those pictures wound up all over Facebook, and I'll bet you Facebook helped us sell a whole bunch of books this past week. So congratulations, Mark. The High Road, Memories from a Long Trip in the 1 and 2 slots. In the number 3 slot, the aforementioned Doc Shearer, who we were talking about, the book he wrote with his wife, Maximizing Happiness Through Intimate Communication, 3rd edition, is in our 3rd best-selling slot. That's a relationship book. It's an excellent book. Number 4, The Rise and Fall of a Construction Giant, The History, People, and Stories of CFW Construction, which, it's a riveting book about a construction company, so I'm sure everybody needs to have a copy. And then How to Start and Run Your Own Food Truck Business in Florida, which we've been talking about here, is in the number 5 slot this week. So that book's starting to move like a food truck heading to the scenic county fair.
Or the beach.
Or the beach.
All right. We would like to also take this opportunity to welcome a new Fresh Ink Group author member, Janice Toney, who has a 4-book children's picture book series called Daddy Yo-Yo. So welcome to the Fresh Ink Group Club, Janice Toney.
Yep.
All right. Now, if you miss an episode, every week we're out here, but if you miss an episode or if there's that one episode that you really thought was super cool, here's how you can find all of our episodes, all 99 of them in the archive.
If you miss a show, find us in the archive, in the Fresh Ink Group channel on YouTube, on Spotify, or under the podcast tabs at freshinkgroup.com, beamweeks.com, and stephengs.com. On YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe.
All right. Over on Twitter, Joe Conjal says, hello, everyone. Looking forward to hearing Mark's story. And Robert Williscroft says, my sense for the free sites is to take it as free publicity. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So let's get to today's guest. Almost 69, Mark Schultz has been proofreading almost his whole life. He is very good at finding the spelling errors that others miss, even in traditionally published books. On average, he finds only 1 book a year without spelling errors. That average has held for the last 7 years. He has loved to read all his life. His 3 favorite genres are sci-fi, fantasy, and historical fiction. He's been married to his first wife for nearly 46 years. Boy, you better get working on that second one, Mark. They have 3 children and 5 grandchildren. They have lived up and down the West Coast with each of their children born in a different West Coast state. They met and got married in San Francisco, though both are native Oregonians. They have recently relocated across the country from Oregon to Florida because 2 of their children and kids moved to the East Coast, one to South Carolina, the other to Central Florida. So welcome to the show, Mark Schultz. How are you doing?
Welcome, Mark.
I am doing well. Beem and Stephen, thank you for that warm welcome. This is a good day.
All right.
Yeah,
we know
we're
you're not from Oregon.
We like
we
the
know you're not
enthusiasm.
from Oregon because if you're from Oregon, you pronounce it Oregon. You don't pronounce it Oregon. So you have betrayed yourselves, both of you. But that's okay.
Well, I had a nephew that lived out there, so I know it's Oregon.
Very good, Beem. Very good.
So,
but, go ahead.
Tell us a little bit more about where all you have lived. You seem to have traveled a bit and covered a lot of land. So where all have you lived and where are you living now?
Well, let's work backwards from right now. My wife and I, we live in Central Florida in the Orlando area. And it's hot here. We're not even in full summer swing yet. But we moved here just a little over a year ago from Oregon. And we lived in the greater Portland area on the east side. And, that's beautiful country out there. We were only a couple miles from the Columbia River. And from the Portland area, you are never more than 2 to 3 hours at the most from just about every possible outdoor recreation opportunity. But as I said, we've lived in all 3 West Coast states. Our youngest child was born in Oregon. Our son, our middle child, was born in the state of Washington. We had moved there from California when my wife was pregnant. And that was an interesting move. And, of course, my wife and I, we met and got married in San Francisco. But as soon as we got married, we had to leave town. Not because we embarrassed anybody, but we couldn't afford to fit both of us and all of our stuff into one apartment. Rents were pretty high in San Francisco, so we just had to move hop, skip, and a jump across the county line, and we paid a whole lot less.
So, where are you originally from? Where were you born?
In Oregon, in Eugene, Oregon.
Okay. So that's ground zero then. Home base.
Yes. Yep.
Is it Oregon that we're talking about here? Oregon? Out there?
Yeah, Oregon.
Oregon?
That spice, Oregon that goes to the spaghetti sauce.
So, Beem, I'm thinking that maybe we should run a commercial and start some of these phone calls that are stacking up.
Yeah, we lost one of them, but we got the other 2 callers. Listen, callers, stay on the line. We're going to get to you right after this here phone or commercial. We're going to do the Fig Short Story Contest.
Yeah, now pay attention to this, listeners, because we're trying to get some stories together for this anthology, and we could make you a star. Yeah.
If you're a writer, this is for you.
Yep.
All right, where'd that go? It just jumped. There we go.
The excitement's killing me.
Hey, writers. Got a short story looking for a prestigious anthology that will showcase your work alongside other top authors? Or maybe you've experienced a moment worth sharing, perhaps with some poignant meaning we could all appreciate. Fresh Ink Group is accepting submissions for our 2nd and 3rd volumes of the Fresh Ink Group Short Story Showcase to be released in hardcover, softcover, and all major ebook formats worldwide. There are no fees to enter. Winners are not only published, but are invited to become members with their own dashboard in the FreshInkGroup.com website. Head over to FreshInkGroup.com's Contests tab to learn more. Then grease up the old Underwood and get those shorts down so you can get your entries in sooner than later. And you readers, discover 49 wondrous tales already released in the Fresh Ink Group Short Story Showcase #1, available now in all formats worldwide.
All that build-up, and it turned out to be me. Jeez, what a letdown, huh? And I just noticed the line. Let's get those shorts down. Okay.
All right. So let's take a phone call.
Real quick, wanted to mention Verwayne Greenhoe is with us. He's on Twitter saying Northern Florida has been hotter than blue blazes. You'll never know how much you miss temps of only 90 degrees when you have sustained temps of 98 to 105 for a straight week. Glad to hear you're out there and hanging in, Verwayne.
Yeah, welcome back, Verwayne. Now, since we do have two callers, I hope the callers are listening right now, because we're going to go with area code 912 first. So area code 912, and we'll find out. Hello, caller. Where are you calling from?
Savannah, Georgia.
Savannah, Georgia. What's your name?
Bibiana Kroll. Hey, Mark.
Hello, Bibi. Nice to hear the lilting tones of your lovely voice.
Hi, Bibi.
Hi, Bibi.
How you guys doing tonight? How you doing?
Doing good.
I'm just crossing off on my list here. Got a call from Bibi, so we're checking them off.
Yeah, I know. Like you're cooking with gas, right?
Yeah. So
right,
we're getting the impression you know this Mark Schultz guy and that you're willing to admit this publicly.
I do. He invited me on Twitter. I was having kind of a wild day today, but he invited me to come dial in and listen to him, because Mark and I have worked with each other for a couple of years. He's been editing the Haunted series that I co-write with Veronica Klein-Barton, but I've never actually talked to him, a human voice. So,
wow,
pretty cool.
Yeah, he's kind of hard to understand because his words are all jumbled and stuff, and he mixes them up. He'll say two and really means two.
So I think it's actually me who has the words jumbled, and he fixes them for me. That's kind of how that works.
We all suffer with a little bit of that. Come on. You should see how I type.
That is very true. So I do have a question for him, if you guys don't mind.
Cool.
Okay.
So here's my question. I've been editing a lot the past month or so, and I don't edit for a living. I write for a living. And the question is how can someone who's at least self-editing to the extent of cleaning up manuscripts so that the editor doesn't run down the road screaming, how does an editor stay excited about storytelling when, I mean, literally they're just looking at these kind of maybe sometimes info dump gigantic manuscripts? Like, how do you stay grounded? How do you stay excited about this when sometimes you're literally just getting, thousands and thousands of words, maybe even half of them shouldn't be there? How do you stay excited?
That's a great question, Bibiana. I love it. But to be honest, I haven't run into that for quite some time. I have led a blessed life now for quite a while. It's been years since I've run into a big info dump on a piece of a book I was working on. And, if I did run into that, I would just have to mark it as an info dump, and I'd still comment on all the stuff inside it. But when I got to the end, and I would put this at the beginning of the info dump, saying that, this is way too much information at one time. Your readers are probably going to not make it to the end of this if it goes on for page after page. I'd be honest with them and tell them exactly what I think. But in the end, it's their choice. I'm not going to come out and beat them down saying, "You fool, you're doing it all wrong."
What kind of stuff do you usually see in an info dump? Is it exposition, like trying to fill in lots of backstory, or, explain why, what color hair she has really matters for the next, 7 paragraphs or whatever? Mark?
Are you asking me or
yeah, I'm asking.
Yeah, I think he was asking you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I thought you might be asking her since she's had the experience more recently than I. So what was the question again?
What kind of contents do you see in info dumps? Is it exposition, trying too hard to fill in lots of backstory and keep backing up stuff, or is it too much detail or too much description? What are you talking about when you say info dump?
Well, okay, it depends upon the genre in part. Different genres are subject to different types of info dumps. For science fiction is my number one favorite genre, but I can tell when an author has spent a lot of time researching something because they want to share all of that research with the reader, and probably 90% of it or more is not necessary at that point in the story. Now, for fantasy, my second favorite genre, it's not research so much. It's just description and minute details. And I've seen that in a couple of romance books also, where they get really carried away with describing her hair and her makeup and her clothing. It doesn't have to go on for a page and a half, especially when it's just more than is needed at that point. And some people in the experimental literary form, sometimes they just don't know when to stop, and they just keep going and going. And they're really proud of all the unusual words they find, and they work as many of them as they can into the description. You're laughing, BB. You've seen this stuff, haven't you?
I've actually done this stuff. I don't know what you're talking about, man.
Okay, then you've seen it. But I think a lot of... Go ahead.
I was just going to say my favorite word is still petrichor. What about you guys?
Nah, my word today is charcuterie.
Oh, great word. Great word.
Yes, that is a great word.
There's a place down here
that's
serving charcuterie in cones.
What?
Wonderful.
Nice.
They wrap it like a wax paper cone they make, and then they put all the charcuterie stuff in there and then have it sticking out on little sharp sticks and stuff. It's pretty cool.
So you're just walking around with like pepperonis in a cone or something.
Yeah, exactly. Bits of fruit, cheese, stuff like that. But Mark, the thing about info dumps is it's really tough to gauge your audience. Like you use science fiction for an example. Now, science fiction, a lot of times you have to get technical. You have to explain that.
Absolutely.
That new propulsion system that nobody's ever thought of before, or whatever. And if you don't explain it enough to give yourself the credibility, then it sounds like you're just making stuff up. So you've got to have that. You got to have that right amount, but you don't know, because the readers out there, one, doesn't want to hear it. Tell me it goes really fast, and he's happy. But the other guy, he wants that technical stuff because that's what he's into. So it's a balancing act. I mean, it's really tough sometimes to anticipate how much of that info dump your people really want, and sometimes they actually did want a bunch of info dump, but you just don't always know.
It is a tough balance, Stephen. You are absolutely right. And as a huge fan of science fiction, I feel kind of qualified to share with a writer how much is too much, and point out they can move a section over here and kind of break it up a bit. They can get all the information in there, it just doesn't have to be always all at the same time. That's what I try and encourage a writer to do. Bring in the amount that is necessary for the moment. Save the good stuff for later.
Yeah. One of my favorite techniques I've noticed over the years is Robert A. Heinlein, the classic science fiction author. When sometimes, it might be the architecture of a building, or something like that, and he wants to explain the technical aspects of it enough to show that he has thought through the scientific part of this, and he's got enough readers who want that kind of stuff. But he always tried to give you just enough, not any more, just enough for you to understand it. And then, of course, if you want to go off and research it on your own, that's up to you. But instead of just dumping the info, he would incorporate it into the story. So instead of explaining, these are the 5 technical aspects of this kind of architecture and why this works, he'd have a problem with number 3, and then somebody would make him try to explain, well, what's the problem with number 3? Well, now you're getting your info dump as part of the story as opposed to just telling you, So it's the little techniques and the games that you play for working that stuff in, and then readers often don't notice that they're getting that info dump if you do it right.
Absolutely. That's a great story, Stephen. I love that. I also happen to love Heinlein's writing. I read a lot of it when I was much younger.
Well, if you've not read all of it, I don't need to be talking to you, so,
I can't remember if I've read it all or not, to be honest.
I'm sorry. I thought this was the Heinlein Club. Who let this guy in?
I think that was a laser blast, guys.
So, Beem,
right.
That was a good question. You sparked some good conversation here, and obviously Mark thinks about these things. Have you been surprised by something that he's done when you're working with him? Just like kind of shook your head and it's like, wow, I didn't even think about that. You got any examples, any stories, any evidence?
Well, I think when Mark looks at it, he looks at it from more than one angle, and I think often when you've been sitting with a manuscript for a while, you can't even see it anymore. It's almost like when you're really tired and your eyes are just sort of like spacing out. So sometimes, you think like maybe this info dump is like the coolest thing ever. And someone like Mark will actually say, like, guys, like 1/3 of this, yay, and the rest of it, like, why? But you don't even necessarily see that because literally, you've been like in that page, back to that page, for sometimes 6 weeks, sometimes 6 months. So, but his grammar is certainly better than mine because I do kind of like this street slang, yeah kind of stuff. And the reason I do that is because most of my dialogue comes from traveling and sitting in rocking chairs and stuff like that in airports and totally eavesdropping on people, like openly eavesdropping.
I do that. You have to do that. That's how you are able to write realistic dialogue. You listen to how people actually talk. And then you capture
people who aren't like you.
Yeah. If they see your parabolic mic, though, they are on to you.
But
in some jurisdictions, that's called stalking.
Yep, I've been
paid. God. But rarely, though, when people are talking who are like close friends, or especially I think when they're getting in an argument or anything like that, like something really passionate or heated or whatever. People don't speak formally. They don't say I. They don't say, well, you did. They just say, well, you, and they point their finger like in between the person's eyeballs, in a threatening way in a public place. But Mark has this innate ability to take something that's a little, what I call Coco Paso, a little crazy, and he dials it down just enough that people can accept it as, the blue pill, and help improve it. Improve it.
That's my goal, baby. I don't want to change your writing. I just
want
to polish it because it's so good already. I'm so grateful I get a chance to polish it and make it shine.
But yeah, it's just really a matter of a different set of eyes that has the ability to see the importance of style, but also see the importance of delivery to people who might not be the same reader or the same type of reader. And that can be a little difficult because I consider myself an experimental writer. So experimental is not exactly commercial, right?
Yeah.
So it's helpful to have someone who has a more, I would say, classical eye at what delivers and what doesn't, so that when I really go off the deep end, because that's my favoriteest thing to do, I have someone who can help me.
I'll throw you a life ring any day.
There you go.
Yeah, throw me one from outer space that can make it through a super, super massive, and we're golden for good.
You got it.
I like the experimental writer. I'm going to be an experimental reader.
Experimental reader. You know what's experimental about reading is trying to ride your bicycle, read a book, and suck on a lemon. I did that once, and I almost got hit by a car.
If that's not a lesson to stay away from lemons, I don't know what is.
There you go. Darn that citrus. But anyway, you guys, thank you for making time for me tonight and for everything that you're doing for the indie community. And Mark, thank you for helping me improve my manuscripts. I appreciate it a lot.
Cool. Thanks for calling.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for calling in.
Take care, guys. Have a great night.
Yeah.
You too.
Beem,
more later.
You want to roll another one here and see if we can knock one out?
Yeah, we've got 3 more calls lining up. Stay on the line, callers. We're going to get to you. Before we do, Joe Conjal has a question for you, Mark. He says, hi, Mark. What are your thoughts on tools like ProWriting Aid? You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do. I think those things can be really useful. But you can't depend on them being 100% accurate.
Yep.
I use 2 different software packages myself because I want to have the different points of view they bring in. But when I proofread a book, I go through it 4 times. The first pass is me, myself, and I. We work as a team, and I read completely through the book, and I find a lot of stuff. And then I bring in the software, and some of their suggestions I think are way off base, and some of their suggestions are good. A lot of them I've already found, but they do find things that skipped my eye the first time around through the book. So right. I use them, I like them, but I recognize their limitations.
Okay, we will touch back with that right after this.
What drives a man to spend 26 years performing night after night? To persevere through a stifling tour bus, bad food, strange women, flared tempers, a plane nearly blown from the sky. Just how did that troubled military brat with a dream claw his way from dirt floor dive bar shows to the world's biggest stages? Aviator, author, and country music Hall of Fame drummer Mark Herndon lived that dream playing with Alabama, one of the most popular and celebrated bands of all time. He learned some hard lessons about people and life, the music industry, the accolades and awards, how easy it is to lose it all, and how hard it is to survive, to embrace sobriety, to live even one more day. Herndon's poignant memoir offers a tale at once cautionary and inspirational, delightful and heartbreaking, funny yet deeply personal. From innocence to rebellion to acceptance, can a man still flourish when the spotlight dims? Are true forgiveness, redemption, and serenity even possible when the powerful say everything you achieved somehow doesn't even count? That you're not who you and everyone who matters thought you were? Find all this and more in Mark's remarkable memoir, The High Road, Memories from a Long Trip, proudly published by Fresh Ink Group in paperback and ebooks, and now in the keepsake dust-jacketed hardcover edition demanded by true fans. Mark Herndon refuses to slow down, so look back, look ahead, and join him on the trip. He's taking the high road.
Let me put a little extra stress on that. If you go to markherndon.com and order the book directly from Mark and Leah, he will send it to you inscribed and, put whatever kind of note you want in there. Like if you want to order one for a gift for somebody, you can have Country Music Hall of Fame drummer Mark Herndon say, "Hey, happy birthday, Donna. I'm glad to hear that, they got that ugly thing cut off your face," or whatever.
Yeah. All right. So, you guys want to take another call since we got 3 of them lined up here?
Yeah, let's bang them out.
All right. So since we've got 3 callers here and there's no way for me to tell you to know who I'm talking to, I'm going to go with the area codes again. This next one is going to be area code 708, and you are next up. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Pat Guthrie calling.
Hi,
Hey,
Pat. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Thank you.
All right.
Very
good.
well.
Welcome to the show. Do you have a question for Mark?
You. Yeah, well, I did have several questions for Mark, but he already answered them. That last call, Al. One of my questions was, what resources do you use? And you had mentioned Write Life or Write something or other. But what other? I edit all my own work before I send it off to an editor, a really good editor. Thanks, Beem.
You're welcome.
And,
thanks for the plug.
Glad to hear that, Pat. That's great
Pat,
news.
Pat, go ahead and admit it. It never ends there because then you run it through Grammarly, and then we get that list from you of no.
That's true. No, actually, I run Grammarly before I send it to you, and then you correct it all. And also Word, the Word grammar thing.
Yeah, I'm working on a manuscript right now for an author, and that Word stuff is just really irritating because it was like, no, that's not what he means. So why would you want me to change that?
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly what I found too. So I kind of wanted to know how you cope with that and what resources do you use that really work for you.
So let's broaden that a little, Mark. Not just what do you use, but what kind of stuff do you recommend for people who are out there doing it on their own as well?
Well, good questions. And Pat, glad to hear from you. Thank you for calling in. I love your question. So I ignore almost all of the suggestions that Microsoft Word puts into a manuscript. I allow the little blue squiggles. I allow the red squiggles. And I look at them, but I ignore 90% of them or more. The grammar of Word is pretty weak. Let's just put it like that. So I have my fairly unique talent for spotting spelling errors everywhere. So we'll just set that aside. That's me. That's the way my brain is wired. I've had people ask me, well, where can I buy Word Refiner software? I've had to say, I'm sorry, I have to disabuse you of that notion. it's not available for sale, and you can't live in my head and copy what I know. But yeah, so here's what I use as a major resource: the Chicago Manual of Style.
Bravo.
I have the big red book, the 17th edition, and I have purchased a subscription to Perfect It 5 that links up with the Chicago Manual of Style. Ooh. They work together, and that is usually my third. That's my third pass through a manuscript.
So let me ask
go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you download your file into an online subscription thing, and they automatically, like Word does and Grammarly does, they'll highlight things that you made a mistake on?
Well, it's not. I don't load the manuscript into their servers, but they are looking at the manuscript on my computer, and they are going through it. But I don't have to upload it. It goes back and forth on my computer, and the Perfect It and Chicago Manual of Style, it covers a lot of stuff. Stuff. Occasionally, I do non-fiction stuff. I'm working with one guy off and on. He's working on his PhD thesis, and he's got pretty special requirements, and Perfect It helps me with that little bit. I know a little about Perfect It. Yeah, Perfect It is one word, and I like it.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, you might enjoy it. Now, I don't take every one of their suggestions, because, as we all know, context is so important.
Yeah.
But they do highlight stuff that is worth looking at, even if I reject about a third of it.
I'm going to check that out.
I hope you do. And I use Grammarly also. That's my second pass through a manuscript. And I used the free side. I decided I don't want to impact an author's style too heavily, so I haven't subscribed. So but that works well for me. They cover the basic stuff, and that's the stuff I'm looking for.
All right.
And so that's what I use. I've been waiting for somebody to ask me that question for a long time.
Well, there it is.
Oh, good. Then I can be helpful.
You did great, Pat.
Now, one thing you did mention to me, and I was going to ask you this: do you read the whole story first? And you already said you do.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yep. Like I said, I go through it 4 times, and that first pass, I am just reading through it, and then each, and I find a lot of stuff, because, as I said, the spelling is my specialty, and I find homophone errors, I find typos. That's my original skill set. The missing words, I find lots of missing words too.
Yeah, those are the big ones. It helps when you know what the author was trying to say there that they didn't put in there.
It's funny. I may have gone through this like 3 or 4 times or 5 times sometimes, and then it goes over to the editor, and then it comes back, and then I'm still finding missing words in there. It happens. So you just gotta have to go with it.
It does happen, Pat. It truly does. I can testify to that very, very well. And how do I figure out the author's intent? Well, it's context, and I go with the simplest explanation first. And sometimes I'll offer 2 or 3 alternatives because it's not clear which one would be the best to me. And boy, every once in a while, I come up with a complete blank. And I tell them, I can't figure out what you're trying to say here, but there's something that's missing really bad, and this is the spot.
Thank you for calling, Pat. We appreciate that. We've got a couple more callers that we want to get to.
Just remember, Pat, those missing words are probably behind the dryer fraternizing with the socks.
Well said, Stephen.
Thanks, Pat.
You're welcome. I'm just saying okay because otherwise I can't hear you. I mean, I'm not somehow. I don't. Never mind. You don't want to know.
Okay.
Just Pat, I'm thinking of you every day when I drive down this causeway here because there's tens of thousands of water lilies blooming out there in the water right now. And your book, Water Lilies Over My Grave, I'll bet you that thing's in pre-sale in about a week.
Woohoo!
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, how cool is that?
Moving along.
Good. I can't wait to see it.
Oh, you haven't seen a book block yet?
Yeah, I saw the cover. Just the cover, but I haven't seen all of the cover. I haven't seen the name of the book and all of that stuff, the title and author and all that stuff on it yet. But the cover itself, I love. They did a good job on it.
All right, thanks a lot, Pat.
Thanks, Pat.
You're welcome. Have a good evening.
Yep. We still got more callers, Beem?
Yes, we do. We got 2 more callers.
You want to bang a commercial and then go to those 2?
Sure. This one is the food truck how-to.
Yeah.
With good jobs so hard to find, especially in rapidly expanding Florida, owning your own food truck could be the best option. It's the least expensive startup, and you can be fully operational in mere months. The rules and regulations can be a bit complex, and no single source has offered all the answers. Until now. How to Start and Run Your Own Food Truck Business in Florida by food truck veteran A.K. Wingler is the step-by-step guide that takes you from good idea to great success. Sure, it's hard work, but exciting, mobile, flexible, and highly profitable. And you get to be your own boss and set your own hours. Proudly published by Fresh Ink Group, this book tells you how and where to make money in this exploding independent industry. Grab your copy in laminated hardcover, glossy softcover, or any of the major ebook formats at retailers worldwide. Even if you're just curious for now, this guide is the best way to discover if a food truck business is right for you.
All right. Get out there and grab that book. It's available right now. Amazon, your favorite places, all that good stuff. So we have 2 more callers up. The next caller is going to be area code 949. So, hello, caller. Welcome to the show. You are on the air. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi there. It's Veronica Klein Barton, and I'm calling from Southern California.
Well, Veronica. Welcome to the show, Veronica.
Hi.
Do you have a question or a comment for Mark?
Comments. First of all, I've worked with Mark for several years now, and in fact, he is currently editing book 9 of mine. And
wow.
So I'm always anxious and to see what he's going to find. You know, I was an engineer before I became a cozy mystery writer, and I'm really, at this point in time, since I've known Mark for a couple of years now, with each book, I always try to, get it to the point where he's not going to find anything. But unfortunately, out of the 9 books, I think I'm not going to be. What was the stat that you mentioned? Is there's like maybe 1 book a year that has 0 mistakes. I'm not one of those. So anyway.
But, book 9, that's the one that came after book 8, right?
Yeah, so I actually write a cozy mystery series, and so Mark has edited 5 of the last 5 of the 7 books in that series. He's editing a book that I co-write with Bibiana Carroll, who was one of the callers earlier, for the Haunted series. So that's our Halloween short story collection. So he's currently editing book 3 in that. That's coming out on Labor Day. And then I write some Christmas cozy mystery short stories, too. So he edited the first book in that series last year, Christmas Bazaar, and he'll have another one in another month or 2. So,
cool.
So that'd be 10 books. All, is my history with Mark, and he gets me every single time. So.
All right.
Well, that's a good endorsement right there that you've used him that many times. So that says a lot.
Oh, I couldn't do it without him. I mean, I work with another editor, Teresa Snyder, who goes through and, does a lot of the content editing, that kind of thing, and just helps me strategize on, things that need to be, strengthened up a bit. And but we go to Mark, and, even after me going through it a zillion times and, 2 formal rounds with Teresa, Mark always catches us. So, it's amazing. so
Hi,
I'm a
Veronica.
super fan, I guess. Hi, Mark.
I love your writing. I really, really do. And I'm enjoying the book I'm working on right now. That was it, The Diamonds and Ashes. That was such a cute story. Oh, my gosh. You got me with that ending so well. Now, so when I talk about finding 1 book without spelling errors a year, that's a published book. Hopefully, your books after I've gone through them, and Teresa's done her work, and she's good too. She's got a great eagle eye and just arranging things just right. I'm your nitpicker. I'm the guy who's digging down there in the ditch and finding all that little stuff. She does great with the big stuff. But your books should be error-free by the time they are published.
Well, I think that they're probably as spick and span as they can be anyway. So, but you do great work, and
thank you.
He's a pleasure to work with too. I just can't speak highly enough on that too. So
I have a question for you, Veronica.
Sure.
When you develop this kind of easy working relationship like you have with Mark, obviously this comes with developing confidence over time, knowing that you can rely on him and counting on the quality of his contributions and whatnot. Do you think that having that kind of backing makes you maybe a little looser? Like I don't have to pay attention quite as much to this detail or that because my guy's going to pick it up? Or do you think maybe it's the opposite? It makes you try to strive to write up to that level, and I'm determined not to let him find anything or something like that?
I'm probably more on the latter there. Just, again, maybe it's because of the former engineering background that I have or whatever. I'm just like, kind of competitive on that front. And I'm like, I don't think he's going to find anything, and then blam. And it's not just like the homophones or the grammar or whatever. I mean, the pesky little punctuation marks, quotation marks, that kind of thing. Also, in my cozy series, it's set in England, and so I still write it from an American perspective, but I do throw in a few English words every now and then. And the last one, the probably number 1 error for spelling was whiskey. So I think we finally settled on the American version, so it's Whiskey. So that was made about,
bingo.
I don't know. Yeah. A gajillion times, that kind of thing, So, but, that's really cool, though, because, Mark does get the fact that, I do insert some English phrases or words and that, and so he checks me on that. So, I think that is something that's probably developed over the course of the years that we have worked together, and so I appreciate it, and I know that I can count on him for sure, but I try to give it my best shot too.
So you think this makes you a better writer each time? Like, when you see what kind of stuff he catches, the next book you try to avoid those, and try to get those right and keep working on those kinds of things too? You think it ups your game?
Yep, all the time. And, and that is something, I've currently, the last few years during the pandemic, I've been writing and publishing 3 books a year. And you would think that after the, at least the first or second book, by the third book, you might get it. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. So, I'll just say it like that.
3 a year, huh? Show off.
Well, 2 of them are short story collections, so it's not all.
Just short stories. and by the way, Veronica, don't know if you've heard, but we're accepting submissions for our short story anthology. And
I did. I heard that. Yeah, I was actually the caller that dropped off because I went on to your website to try to follow it from there, but then I figured, I better call back in. So
anyway. Go to freshinkgroup.com and just click on the tab called Contests.
Okay. Yeah, I will. I'll check it out. So,
if anybody just wants to email a story directly, contest@freshinkgroup.com. Email address.
No, that's perfect.
All right, Veronica, we're expecting a story from you.
Okay.
I'm serious. We're hardcore.
As soon as I get done with Mark's changes, I'll be back at you. So.
All right.
Okay.
Anyway, but it's fantastic and great podcast. I'm so glad I was invited, and it's been really. I always learn something from the different people that are doing the talking in that. So fantastic, and again, Mark, top job there. So
yeah, well, we appreciate your participation, and of course, if you haven't subscribed to the newsletter, make sure you go do that. That way, you'll get the link each week and find out who our guests are going to be. Plus, we have all kinds of cool information in there too, like the Copyright Claims Board this week. That's stuff you ought to know.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. No, fantastic. I will do that for sure.
Thanks.
So,
well, thanks for calling in, Veronica.
All right. Have a good evening.
You too.
All right. Thanks.
All right. So we have one more caller. Let's go ahead and take this one. Or do you want to run a quick commercial beforehand?
Go ahead. Let's do the call.
Okay. This is going to be area code 303 right here. Hello, caller. Welcome to the You are on the air. What is your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Jill, and I'm calling from Centennial, Colorado.
Well, hello, Jill. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I have a couple of comments and a couple of questions. Heinlein is one of my favorite authors. I read a lot of science fiction, or at least I did in the past when I had more time to read. But a good friend of mine, I have a story about Heinlein. A good friend of mine, Alistair Mayer, had the opportunity to meet with him at an event, and they said that he was allowed to bring one book. They didn't want to overwhelm Heinlein when he was there. And so he went up and he handed him the book, and Heinlein turned and gave it to Virginia, and his wife. Virginia inscribed the front. Heinlein by this time was getting really up in the ears, and then handed it back, and Heinlein signed it, autographed it, and then he thumbed through the book, went to a specific page, to a specific spot, corrected a typing error, and then handed it back.
Oh, my hero.
So even the best writers, the mistakes will slip through somehow.
Yeah.
So I thought that you'd be interested in that. I am a beta reader, and and do some editing and proofreading for a couple of my friends. Alistair is one, and Robert Williscroft is another, and they both write hard science fiction. I find
Very well.
and I find it difficult to read something if there are mistakes in it. How do you keep from getting distracted by the errors? What I do is I load it up onto Word and at least do a pass through and catch some of the most egregious spelling errors, and then before I go through and read it, because otherwise I get so distracted, it's hard for me to maintain the flow of the story.
Great question. And I have wondered about that myself, and I've come to the conclusion that my brain is wired differently. It's like there's two people who are reading the book at the same time. One is enjoying the story. You know, I love to read a good story. And the other is spotting those mistakes. And it's like the second guy is covering, so the first guy doesn't get spoiled and lose the story. I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but that's the best I can figure out. The mistakes jump off the page of me, and I see them, and I make a comment, and if I'm proofreading a book, or if I'm just reading, you know, I still see them. They're still there, and I will just make a comment on my Kindle and keep reading, and I keep enjoying this story.
Well, that's a good talent to have. I just get distracted, so I go through and do the initial proofing, checking for spelling and obvious large grammar errors. And again, I don't agree with everything that Word comes up with, and so sometimes we use other applications too. But I will generate a custom dictionary for each book, especially with science fiction, because they often create their own terms, technical terms that don't exist anywhere else.
Did she say Williscroft?
too?
What was that?
I said, did she say Williscroft?
Yes, I did.
and Mark said fantasy too. Yeah, especially fantasy.
Yeah.
I mean, you just make all kinds of stuff up and act like, hey, what are you talking about? That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yep,
so
and they get to do that. It's their book.
Yeah, their world.
Yeah. I also put the characters' names in the custom dictionary, because sometimes I'll find that, here they misspelled the person's name, and that's not necessarily something I would catch visually.
Yeah.
So that is
I'm working on a manuscript now where one of the characters is 3 different spellings of the name. So, all right, let's go back and just settle on one.
I have had that experience also, Beem.
Like Veronica, I'm also an engineer. That's my background. So I also look at the technical aspects, and since they write hard science fiction, they both want the technical side to be realistic. And every now and then I will challenge them and say, I'm not sure this is right. You want to check this? And at one point, in one of Williscroft's books, he had those characters dropping this huge concrete block over the side of a ship that was used as an anchor. And I said, you say it only takes this long for it to hit bottom, and I don't think that's right. It can't go that fast. It's got to be a lot slower. We each went off and did some calculations, did a little bit of research online to make sure that we had the right equations, came back with the same answer, found out that it was much faster than that. In fact, it was faster than the speed of sound, just because of how humongous heavy this was. And the water was providing almost no resistance. So that's another fun part of it, is to catch them on the technology sometimes.
That's fun. I love it.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, anyway, I've enjoyed listening to you, and I've picked up a few tips. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for calling in.
Thank you for calling in, Joe. Yeah. Okay. Stephen, you want to do another commercial real quick before we are out of time?
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead and hit chaos.
All righty.
I'm in St. Louis, where the windmills turn, behind the fence where lifers yearn. I see tempers flare and souls burn. Walk the line, or it's your turn. It's funny how little things give us the greatest ambition. The differing shades of color throughout the day's sky, the slight smile and familiar aroma of a lover, the laugh of a child. In From Chaos with Love, Poetry from the Inside Out, this astounding collection of 220 original poems, Joshua Stutzman shares his vision of how we live day to day, often unaware of how many ways we affect those around us, family, friends, even strangers. In that, he finds a unique and poignant beauty, an exquisite appreciation for the wonder he hopes to share with his poetry. Proudly published by Fresh Ink Group, From Chaos with Love is the first collection from a man describing what we all know but find too easy to forget. From Chaos with Love, Poetry from the Inside Out by Joshua Stutzman.
I like that music.
I do too.
That's a cool commercial. You know, we've been talking a lot about Robert A. Heinlein today. Excuse me. He's got a book called I Will Fear No Evil. The main character in it, Jubal, is a novel writer. What the guy does, he writes books. And he writes a novel. It's his latest book, and he gives it to a friend of his to read the manuscript, kind of a beta reader situation. And his friend comes back and says, "Oh man, this is great. I loved it. You know, everything's cool except, you know, in chapter 12, this didn't make any sense. It's, you know, kind of weird here. Don't you need to do some more work on that or whatever?" And he said, "No, that was for my editor." It's like, "Well, what are you talking about?" And he said, "Well, basically, I start out, I write the perfect book, and then I go in and wreck a couple of things, so my editor has something to fix." And it's like, "Well, why would you do that?" And he said, "Because editors are like dogs. If you see a stump, he's got to pee on it, so it smells like his."
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious, Stephen.
So Mark, have you done some unusual projects, you know, like graphic novels or anything?
Yes, actually, I just finished one not very long ago. I went to the MegaCon, a comic convention that's held in Orlando, and my gosh, that is huge. That's a huge event. And I was there to meet writers and hand out my business cards, and I met quite a few and handed out quite a few, and one said he would get in touch with me, and he did. He had written and laid out everything in his graphic novel by page and by panel with instructions to the artist about how it should look approximately. And so the only thing that was missing was the artwork. And I went through and cleaned up a lot of his dialogue, his discourse, and the instructions to the illustrator. Some of those instructions were pretty rough. And I knew that would be helpful if it was clearer for that guy. And it didn't take long. It was fun. I enjoyed that. I just love to read.
Being that you work, you know, doing a lot of for authors, do you have any advice for these authors? You know, something they could do before they hand it off to the editor or proofreader?
I do. You know, it's when a writer's been writing his book and going over it over and over, and he's done some self-editing, and he's had the betas, and he's done some more changes, the brain gets tired of seeing it all. And the brain starts to show the writer what the writer wants to see. It won't show you the mistakes that are there. That's a good part of why writers have so much trouble self-editing. It does take a particular mental rigor to do that well, but there are ways to fool the brain. And I've been recommending this to writers for quite a while. But there are several tricks that are real easy to do. The easiest trick is change the font size and the font style. And if you can, change the background color on your computer of the pages. Make it look different, and if it looks different enough, you'll be surprised at how many errors you will find.
That's an interesting idea.
And another recommendation I have made is read it aloud to yourself, or have the computer, which a lot of software programs have that capability now. Read it aloud. Engage more than one sense is the idea. And I also recommend that a writer can read it backwards, one paragraph at a time. Start at the end and read the last paragraph, and just do it one paragraph at a time all the way to Once Upon a Time. Those are all different ways to fool your brain and get a fresh eye perspective.
Okay.
You will find
seems like
lot
the
of
trick.
stuff.
The trick is to not let your brain expect what's next. If your brain is off kilter and isn't expecting what's next, then it has to look at it with fresh eyes as opposed to what it thinks is there. Because we've all done that before. You think you wrote that sentence, and you look at it, you can see that sentence you think you wrote, but it's not what you thought you wrote because you left a word out, and you're just seeing that word now.
Absolutely. And well said, Stephen. Giving your brain a new perspective is what it's all about.
Mm-hmm. Now, before we get into how to contact you and stuff like that, I'm just kind of curious. One of your specialties has been homophones or homophones. Words like there and there and there and two and two,
yep.
Your and your, and stuff like that. Those are the obvious ones. Somebody coming
yep.
out of high school should know those things. There's certain ones that over the years I find people consistently get them wrong. Just get them wrong, or straight up don't know the difference. And I'm wondering if you can just throw out some examples, like off the top of my head, fiance, whether or not it has one E or two E's, whether it's a male fiance or a female fiance, that 9 out of 10 times is going to be wrong. It seems that's a tough one. Another one like LOATH and LOATHE. I loathe that person versus I am loath to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of some like that are a little bit more obscure that people tend to get wrong as opposed to just sometimes get wrong?
Well, one of the mistakes I've seen pretty frequently is blonde and blonde. Blonde with an E has been preferred by many of the major authorities for a woman, without an E for a man. But I've noticed that some authorities are changing their stance on that. And, it's one of the ways that language changes. Another one that I've seen is insure and insure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's
when you have insure. What was that, Stephen?
I say that's insure and insure is like affect and effect. A lot of people use them both and aren't quite sure which is which.
Yes, that is true, and I've got a good clue on that. When insure is with an I, that's like insurance, the actual insurance policy. If you're just trying to make sure of something, use the E version, insure.
Mm-hmm. Funny you should mention blonde, too, because that's one that I've been watching for the last half century to see how
mm-hmm.
it evolved. And the trend that I've been noticing, especially the last 10 or 15 years, is with the E tends to be the noun. Like a blonde walked into the bar, and she had blonde,
mm-hmm.
blonde, hair. So that's the biggest. That's the biggest differentiation I see. If they're using it as an adjective, they leave the E off, and if they're using it as a noun, they put the E on. And that's, highly reputable writers and editors and stuff that I'm seeing do it that way. So it's funny how those things evolve over time. And And I'm weird. I watch those things, and I've been watching those things for over half a century.
Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one, Stephen. Thank you.
Yeah.
We are brothers in arms.
Then you also have accept and accept.
Yeah.
There's another one.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's one
That's another good one.
Yeah, I catch that from time to time.
I have caught that many times.
So, Mark, how can people find you, contact you? Social media, blog, website, Facebook, Instagram?
Yep.
Line up at the police station.
All of that, but I'll be honest, I haven't done anything with my Instagram for a long time. I just don't have time for it. I've been too busy. I still have a page there. I should delete it, but I haven't. And I just ignore all the emails. My primary social media is Twitter. I'm on Twitter pretty much all day, more or less, every day, more or less. I schedule all my tweets a day in advance, so if I need to take some time off, I can. So, but it looks like I'm still there with my nose to the grindstone, my shoulder to the wheel, and it's hard to get work done in that position, I'll tell you.
It is.
And I trudge on. I do have a personal and a professional Facebook page, but I send a lot of stuff to those pages, but I don't actually get on there much myself. I'm on LinkedIn too, under my personal name and Mark Schultz, and I post some stuff there as well. And my website, which I'm very proud of, wordrefiner.com.
Nice website.
Well, thank you, Stephen. I blog about words, although to be honest, I haven't written a blog in several years. I've been too busy. Taking care of my clients is my first priority. Yes, I'm a slacker, I know. But I have a lot of stuff on there for authors. My favorite page is the humor page. I've got word jokes and misspelled signs and screenshots of TV newscasts with misspelled words, all kinds of funny stuff. I've got links to great blogs. I've got some wonderful guest bloggers and all of my book reviews. I've got over 300 book reviews on there, and many of those reviews have interviews with the authors.
Cool.
As far as I know, I offer the only live author interview on the internet because it's not pre-recorded, and then you watch it. We do it in the comments underneath the review. So a lot of my reviews have got 50, 60, 80, 100 comments under them on my website, and that's where the author and I talk for a week. We talk for a whole week about their writing and publishing journey. And there's a lot of writerly wisdom on there now, I think. It's been fun to talk with all of the authors. Great fun.
I'll bet. Yeah. And listeners, of course, as always, if you can't find a guest any other way, we have a contact form at freshinkgroup.com. Send us a note, and we'll make sure we pass it along because we try to keep track of where all these scoundrels are and, keep in touch with them, see what they're up to. Over on Twitter, we do have another comment from Robert Williscroft. He pointed out lay and lie. And that's a big one because lay, the transitive verb, like to lay the book on the table versus the past tense of lie, like I lie down. Yesterday I lay down. People mix lay and lay up all the time. And that's
Oh, they do. And set and sat.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yep. That's another one, just like lie and lay. But I think lie and lay is worse by a few degrees. I've got a Post-it note on my desk with the conjugation of those two words, just because I see it so often. And it's so difficult.
Isn't that an Eric Clapton song, Lie and Lay? Let me think about that.
Something like that. Yeah,
it's been
very
great.
close.
It's been great having you on, Mark. We appreciate all the tips. You gave people a lot to think about. And, of course, listeners, if you're interested in having Mark look at your material, you know how to track him down, or we can help you find him. This has been great. Wish you the best of luck, Mark.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stephen and Beem. I have enjoyed this so much. Oh, and then let me just add one little thing. I do offer a free estimate on proofreading. The details are on my website.
Cool.
Wordrefiner.com. Wordrefiner.com.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely.
Bingo.
All right, so listeners,
Thank
we're going to
you,
hit you with another commercial on our way out, and then we look forward to seeing you next week with Richard Bell. And then who we got after that, Beem?
And after that, we have Annette Rochelle Adden. She's going to come in here and talk about her books and writing and whatnot.
And then author Paul Hollis will be on the week after that.
Followed by Caleb Pirtle III. So
we were trying to squeeze Janelle A. Jordan in there, and just before the show, we booked her for July 13th. She's got a book, Millennial. It's called Still Not Enough: Millennial Minorities in the Workforce. It's a very interesting book. So we're looking to have that thing in pre-sale sometime the next week or two, and we'll have her on the show in about 3 weeks. That's Janelle A. Jordan. So, again, thanks. What do you think, Beem? Did we finish the show today?
I think we did. So we're going to drop in one more commercial, and we will see you all again here next week, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome, guys, and thank you for all this. This has been so much fun.
Great. See you, everybody.
Hello, Chattanooga. Famous people who have visited the Tennessee Valley. Features photos, stories, and complete listings of the entertainers, athletes, political leaders, and others who visited the area since 1900. Chattanooga has attracted some of the best-known celebrities in the world, thanks to our city's historic venues, beautiful scenery, and powerful people. Hello, Chattanooga features hundreds of restored photos, behind-the-scenes stories, and thousands of fully indexed entries spanning more than 700 pages. I'm David Carroll. I've worked in Chattanooga television and radio for more than 40 years. I also write a weekly newspaper column and have written 2 other books, Chattanooga Radio and Television, a photo history of Chattanooga media, and Volunteer Bama Dog, a TV guy's love letter to the South, a collection of my most popular stories. Hello, Chattanooga is proudly published by Fresh Ink Group in a keepsake jacketed hardcover edition with full-color interior printing, softcover with black and white photos, and all-color ebook formats worldwide. Take a trip back in time, enjoy great memories, and maybe even settle an argument as you learn the dates and places that your favorite star, athlete, or president visited the Chattanooga area.
You've been a part of Voice of Indy, a production of Fresh Ink Group. Spread the word, support our guests, then find us at freshinkgroup.com and be sure to hashtag Fresh Ink Group.